So guys, it's CG Inferno here today, and today's review, it will be about Persona 5 Tactica. I won't really dive too much into the whole story, mainly because I don't want to spoil people, but I will mainly talk about like the start of it and what my thoughts are on it pretty much, along with the gameplay as well. Now, the story for Persona 5 Tactica basically puts the team back together to tackle a new threat. They are transported into another world where they can use their Persona abilities again, though not as freely as before. You meet two new characters during this story named Arena and Toshiro, who will be joining you throughout the whole story and helping you to solve why you've entered this mysterious new world, while trying to stop the rulers of these kingdoms and free the citizens as well, with the main goal mainly just to get back home pretty much. Now, the length of Persona 5 Tactica will vary depending on what mode you're playing on, or doing all the side quests and 3-starring all the maps as well. For me, I managed to finish the game under 30 hours, and that's with me doing everything in the game that has to offer for now, as there are some stuff that are locked behind the DLC that's coming out on release day. This is clearly on the shorter side than your usual Persona games, which is expected, and honestly, it was a good change from what we usually get from the usual 50-60 plus hour games we get, sometimes even more depending on how you tackle these games. But yeah, this one is definitely on the smaller scale. Now, the side quests in the game are very straightforward. Most times it's either finishing a map within a certain amount of turns or reach the target in a set number of turns. Some allow you to use any team combinations, while others give you a set team to use. Difficulty in these are honestly very easy, and I don't expect many people to have too much trouble with it. Maybe just certain side quests you might just have to tinker around with it, but once you get the hang of it, it's literally like super straightforward pretty much. Honestly, I would say it's a shame that we must wait for the DLC before we get any like hard content in the game, and even then, I don't know how hard it's going to be, because in Persona games, let's be honest, once you reach a certain point in the game, you can literally just blitz through everything regardless of the difficulty you're on. But with these side quests, it was quite nice because you do get like a bit of like extra dialogue here and there with the team. So yeah, honestly, it was a nice addition, but I think it could have been a lot tougher in my opinion. Now, during the story, there are some parts where you can use the talk function to talk to like your team members, or basically trigger a cutscene where you talk about certain subjects like what's happening currently in the story, or in this case, talking about marriage and stuff. And there are like multiple options for that marriage one, which I think a lot of people are going to be very fond of. I wonder how the Persona fandom will take it, but yeah, we won't get into that. But yeah, there's fair amount of talks that can be done in the game. They're not too long, they're not too short, and there's like not too many of them in the game as well. So I think it's like a nice balance of it, honestly. And yeah, it just gives a bit more insight to what's happening. Sometimes there are like a bit of throwbacks to the Persona 5 story. Now, where this story actually takes place, Tactica, is a bit of a mystery, because when playing it, they did kind of reference stuff from the end of Persona 5, but at the same time you don't like really realistically they didn't really state where this one is. So the original game, you basically done it throughout a set amount of months. This one just seems to be done in like one day pretty much, from what I'm guessing, or not even what I'm guessing, from what I've seen, honestly. It would be nice if like Atlas can come out and like confirm it, but we'll just have to wait and see. But for me, I think it does actually take place like after the main game, because I think there was one point where Yosuke was like talking about how they're still being monitored by like the police, which technically happens like near the end, well, not even near pretty much after the game. So yeah, I would assume this is like just after like the main game. But yeah, maybe Alice should just actually come out and say it. But yeah, overall, the story for Persona 5 Tactica was nice all round, but it does follow the same formula as its predecessors, which becomes quite predictable after playing for a few hours. So yeah, I kind of wish they might have mixed up here and there, but yeah, if you play Persona 5 or Royal or Scramble even, you kind of know who the final boss is going to be, or what the final boss will be. Yeah, it was that predictable. But you know, maybe one day they actually might change it just for the sake of changing it, maybe get something different. But yeah, it's not like it was a bad story. I actually enjoyed it throughout the whole game. Some parts were a bit here and there, but for the most part, yeah, it was really good. Now, the gameplay for Persona 5 Tactica plays like most tactics style games, so if you're familiar with them, then this will be like a no-brainer for you. And literally it's so easy to get into, honestly. The gameplay does start off simple with teaching you the basics of the game, like staying in cover or using your gun and persona skills. Then eventually down the line it teaches you about the one more mechanic and triple threat mechanic as well, which is new to the game. And this is pretty much vital to like the play style of this game, considering how many mobs are in like certain stages as well. Now this new mechanic was very fun to use, but I quickly realized how easy it makes the game and how you can abuse it later on in the game as well. Then again, as I said before, this just seems to be the nature of Persona games, when you just always find something busted and you can just steamroll through the game, honestly. Difficulty in the game ranges from safety to merciless. So you got safety, easy, normal, hard, and merciless, with obviously merciless being the hardest. Merciless, I did dabble into it a bit. It is quite challenging at the start of the game, but when you go, I say midway through, even like before midway through the game, once you have like your personas and stuff, it doesn't become too hard. Obviously, if you don't play correctly in these tactics games, you can literally just get one shot in a turn pretty much, which did happen to me once because I was just very Papega then. But overall, you're not going to have too much of an issue here, especially with that triple threat mechanic, because yeah, you can do a lot of damage with it and basically saving turns as well, honestly, which is what I've done for certain fights. Now, of course, HP is affected during these difficulties, so if you're playing on safety, you'll notice that a lot of the enemies will just die in it pretty much like within a hit or two, most likely, obviously except bosses. But yeah, playing on safety, like easy, normal, you can see it's not too bad. You can get away with here and there sometimes. Obviously, sometimes they can do a bit more damage. Hard and merciless, notice that the enemies will have quite a bit of HP, but nothing that you can't really handle, honestly, in these types of games. Do note, merciless is not like how it was in Persona 5 or Royal, pretty much, where you can do like double damage and all of that stuff. It's just basically like a harder version of hard in this game. Now, because if it was like the original games, then yeah, I would just say don't even play on merciless, just play on hard, because then at that point you're just going to steamroll through the game. Now, one feature that I did like in the game was the undo feature. So how this works is basically it allows you to undo a turn, which you might have noticed in like certain tactics games as well. So in this game, say for example you have messed up in one turn, or you didn't really get what you wanted in that turn, it allows you to just go back one turn and then replay it. So one cautious note about it is that when you actually do click it, so say for example you are on turn 2, right, and you kind of messed up, instead of it saying to go back to the start of turn 2, it'll actually take you back to turn 1 if you haven't ended your turn already in turn 2. So just as a reminder for people that are listening, if you've messed up saying that said turn, just end the turn, which you can do from like just pressing the touchpad, and then let that turn play out, because obviously the enemies are going to go first, and then do the undo, and then you can actually go back to the previous turn where you messed up. Because I found out the hard way where I went back to like one turn where I actually kind of messed up, but then yeah, it just took me back further than I anticipated, and I was like, oh crap, I have to go and do all of this again. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But it is a nice feature. It does make the game, I guess, easier in a sense, because it doesn't really punish you for your mistakes. But again, just to even add on to that, you have baton pass, which works slightly different in this game. So in this game, basically it works as you tagging out your dead party member. So depending on difficulty you're playing on, you get a set amount. So if you're playing on normal, you get 3. Safety or easy, I think you get like 4 or 5 or something like that. So, and you can just continuously do it on safety from what I saw. And then if you're playing on like merciless, you only get 1. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But yeah, the undo features there, I think you can just do this. I don't know if there's a set amount, but I've rarely needed to use it. But I think you can just use it as much as you want, but I might be wrong on that. I need to double check on that. But yeah, if you could use it as much as you want, then yeah, playing on merciless is just becoming a joke at that point, really. Now, for personas in this game, they work slightly differently. So the team usually have their usual personas that we've all come to know and love pretty much throughout the years. However, Joker cannot switch freely between personas like previous game, mainly because the world that they're in has some sort of restriction on their powers, which is what Lavenza tells us about. I'll also talk about the Velvet Room in a minute. Now, the number of skills you have with these personas are quite limited. So with your main personas, you actually do get a fair amount of skills from the skill tree. So you have their single attacks and their AoE attacks, even though some of the single attacks can actually have like, or take up a few blocks on the map as well. So you can technically hit more than like 2 enemies at a time sometimes, depending on where the enemies are. Some of the team members have certain buffs. So Anne has like the attack buff. Harry has something else, I can't remember which one. It's basically, they will only have a set amount of skills, and you basically just kind of have to mix and match which ones you want. Now, obviously, when you fuse personas, some of these personas can actually get these skills. So you can, like, say if you have a set team that you always like to use, you can then have some of these personas equipped to these members and then gain some more buffs and stuff to use throughout the matches or throughout the turns as well, which is also a nice feature, because now instead of just Joker being able to just have an extra persona to use, your whole team could use like an extra persona. Obviously, with their skills as well, they do come with a unique skill, all of them. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Well, not bad, I would say useless in a sense. But yeah, there are a few skills that I actually found quite interesting to use. That can definitely give you like an edge in some of these battles as well. So yeah, the way they done the whole persona system in this it was very interesting. It's not too bad, but it will take a bit of getting used to, honestly. As for the fusions, they still work the same as before. You do have your special personas as well that you can get through completing the side quests as well in the game. So if you're trying to go for 100%, you would need to do all the side quests as well. Pretty much that. Even though when you get these said personas, it's not like you'll see them on the field as well, because mainly the team would just still be using their main personas that they've awakened to from previous games. As for the equipment in the game, you're basically just limited to your gun. So you don't really have to care about your melee weapons or anything, because you can't buy them or even fuse them. In this game, it's just basically about your gun, because that is probably going to be your main source of damage at the start of the game, because SP is very limited at the start compared to like mid game and stuff as well. So yeah, you can fuse different guns that will have different effects. So you can fuse them to have, say, dizzy or hypnosis or vortex or fire, wind, ice, and it can give you like so many good combinations. Honestly, it got to the point where it's like it was very pointless to just go and buy a weapon from the shop, because okay, it gives you more attack, but it doesn't really give you anything else. So yeah, keep that in mind if you are playing the game. Fuse your gun weapons when you get the chance. Obviously, the way you fuse them is by using the personas that you have in your compendium. So yeah, money might be a slight issue as well in this game that I noticed, but there are some personas that can give you more money when you finish a battle. So if you want to farm, just make sure you have a persona that has that. But yeah, overall, I would say the gameplay for Tactica was enjoyable and easy to understand. It's just that after I found it a bit too easy, and even with the bosses in the game, it didn't really pose a challenge to me, honestly. Even the final boss, and I was like kind of disappointed because I just steamrolled through it pretty much. They do have some mechanics, some of the bosses, but it's nothing too hard, honestly. But yeah, gameplay for Persona 5 Tactica, I think most people enjoy it. Now we've come to the end of the video, so this review I did say that I'm just going to mainly talk about a bit of the story and mainly the gameplay and my thoughts on it. So overall, Persona 5 Tactica I would say is a solid entry into the Tactica style gameplay, while still having some of the core mechanics that we've come to know throughout the series lifespan pretty much. Though I would consider that being like a double-edged sword, mainly because the game becomes a lot easier with some of these mechanics, you know. Obviously you can limit yourself to challenge yourself and everything, but I think your average player probably wouldn't really do that. Now obviously it does have the music that we all come to know and love, a great cast of characters that we've seen throughout the years. It's safe to say that Alice can still hold it down, and I can easily recommend this game who enjoys tactic style gameplay and people that are a fan of Persona, especially Persona 5, which I know people don't really like to hear, but that is the truth, honestly. Obviously, I would say the price that is at right now is a bit too high, honestly, because once you finish the game, there's really not much else for you to do. Yeah, you can go new game plus and then go 100% the game, and that'll probably take you like another 5-6 hours tops, pretty much, because by the time you finish the game normally you probably have like the majority of the trophies anyway. So yeah, if you're a bit on the fence on the price, I'll probably just say wait for a sale or something. But honestly, if you're not really too fast, then yeah, I would say get the game. The game itself is good. It's just obviously I know some people are a bit funny when it comes to prices. Now, my only one concern is how long can they continue to milk Persona 5? It's had a fair number of games and crossovers as well with like gacha games as well, and even itself it's got a gacha game that's in the works. There's been a few betas for it in China already. I don't really mind Persona 5, but I would think at some point they've got to stop. Personally for me, I kind of wish they actually done a fighting game like Persona 4 Arena. That I actually enjoyed, and I think a fair amount of people are actually waiting for that. So if that does come out, I do hope that's just the last Persona 5 thing we get on now, because there's only so much you can do. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens in it. You know, obviously Persona 5 is just milking in the money, so you can't really blame them from like business point of view. But yeah, hopefully in the future they kind of move on. But we'll just have to see. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review. It's slightly, well, I would say short, but God knows how long it's short for me anyway. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you've got any questions about the game and stuff, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.